Welcome to the Above Average podcast. Just a note to say, if you're hearing this, you're listening to the public version of our members podcast. To access full episodes, you can do so at our Patreon page, where you'll find a private RSS feed for your favourite podcast app and other exclusive content. We don't have ads or sponsors on the podcast, and that is made possible entirely by the support of our members. So if you like what we're doing here, please consider joining them. And now, the podcast. Today, I spoke with Dr. Dan Beese, a junior doctor with an interest in health, fitness and nutrition, and someone that has seen up close the problems the health service has to deal with when it comes to helping us all stay fit and well. Welcome to the podcast with me, Mark Lewis, and today I'm joined by Dr. Dan.
Hello, Mark.
There was some hesitation when I asked if I could call you Dr. Dan. You wanted to go with just Dan, but I figure that you've presumably been educated to the level of a doctor.
I mean, you haven't checked my credentials too thoroughly, but you have taken my word. I am a doctor.
Dan says he's a doctor, and I'm going with it. In fact, actually, you just gave me some advice on my 15-year-old's knee. You use words like ligaments and tendons, and I thought, this guy knows what he's on about.
Is that convincing?
It was convincing enough for me.
Excellent.
I wouldn't have got much further than sore knee. Okay, so why is there a doctor in the house? Here's what I want to talk about. I, as a YouTuber, am able to live in a little bubble of a world that exists really that only has me in it and the people that are watching or listening to my stuff. And what's really nice about that is that most people listening to my stuff are, at least to some extent, on board with what I'm doing, what I'm talking about. So whether it's health or fitness, doesn't mean they are healthy and fit, or they might be starting their journey. They might be, who knows where they're at. That the point is that they at least appreciate the approach that I take to my own health and fitness, even if they can't kind of get theirs where they want it to be at the moment. So in other words, to a large extent, we're all on the same page. And it's a lovely place to be. And actually, arguably, what's wrong with society now is that it's almost too easy to find people that do nothing but share your own opinions when those opinions are a bit wacky. But I'm fairly happy that the opinion that you should be healthy and fit and happy is not a bad one, to be surrounding myself with people that agree with it. And therefore, what I'm able to do is look beyond that bubble occasionally at society at a whole and not get too bogged down with what a mess it's in. Some people ask me, in fact, I've been asked a few times on other people's podcasts, people will say, hey, your message about health and fitness is great. How do we get that to society? How do we fix the health of everybody? And as a podcaster and a YouTuber living in my little bubble, I'm able to say, I don't think we can. I don't care. It's just beyond the realms of my ability to even start thinking about how you fix society. What I know I can do is send out my little message to a relatively small number of people that like it, and I'm content with that. And it is two-way, because occasionally those people get back in touch with me and say, hey, loving your content, and I'm starting to run, and they'll ask for some tips and advice. And I can have one-to-one conversations in that way, which I find very just a very pleasing thing to do, to know that you're helping somebody improve themselves and just feel better about themselves is great. But yeah, when it comes to looking beyond that, I wouldn't even know where to start or whether it would even be worth starting. And so it's always fascinated me, or at least it's fascinated me since I've come to that conclusion, which has been for a good few years now, how people that aren't able to say, as I am quite selfishly, to heck with society, I'm just going to stick it to my bubble. How do people that are like doctors able to basically, in fact, let me put it like this, how do you keep you cool? How do you see what society is doing in terms of its health and fitness, which is declining, and know that you are tasked with being to some extent responsible for helping that to not be the case? Because it would drive me nuts, would be my conclusion. And maybe that would be I was going to say that's a good reason why I'm not a doctor. Probably the lack of intelligence would also, it's not just my intolerance level that would stop me being a doctor. not knowing anything about knees, as an example, would be another one. So yeah, so kind of over to you. In fact, actually, let's back up a step slightly. You are how old?
I'm now 29.
So you're 29. Yeah. So you're about almost the same age as one of my kids. And it's always disconcerting when it's policemen, isn't it? They used to say about policemen, when the policemen are getting younger, you know you're getting older.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't have too many interactions with policemen, but I do occasionally have to see doctors for various things. And it always leaves me slightly disconcerted when I think that person isn't old enough to have spent enough time studying to be anywhere near my knee.
Yeah, I mean, I did it very quickly. So I went to med school straight from school. So I was 18, and then after that, I spent 5 years.
Hang on, back up a second there. 18, you've done your A levels.
Yep, done my A levels.
You go to med school.
Med school at University of Nottingham. Did 5 years there.
Okay, so that's okay, cool. I thought I in my head
I wasn't an 18-year-old doctor. No,
I was going to say, I thought it was like a kind of a Doogie Howser story. Are you too young for Doogie Howser?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone that's over 40 knows who Doogie Howser is.
Sorry, Mark. I've been pretty good on the film front so far.
You have, yeah.
I'm an educated 29-year-old, I'd like to think.
Yeah, although the fact you haven't watched Doogie Howser is... I'm going to tell you about Doogie Howser. This is how serious this podcast is. Doogie Howser was a sitcom about a child prodigy that was a doctor, and he would walk around kind of being a doctor in a hospital wearing his Nikes, and it was played by...
I like the sound of Doogie Howser.
Doogie Howser, played by Neil Patrick Harris. He's the guy from How I Met Your Mother. No,
fair enough. Don't know particularly.
I tell you what,
the main guy, or
I'm glad you told me you watched Heat earlier. Otherwise, this would be going downhill rapidly. Okay,
who's worse, me or Jen so far?
Yeah, you both. What I am realizing is that Jen's not as bad as I thought. I suppose that's probably where we'd get to on that. She at least will know who Doogie Howser is. Although I say that, she only knows who Doogie Howser is because I told her who Doogie Howser was. Right, let's get back on track.
Sorry.
So you
did warn me not to talk to you about films.
Yeah,
so I do apologise. That was my fault.
So you leave school.
So I left school at
18.
Go
to med school.
Went to med school. That was at Nottingham.
Why?
So I guess I've actually been reflecting on this quite a lot recently, and we'll come to your answer. I'm going to come and explain it fully. So, but it kind of ties into that. I guess the reasons why I went to medical school were that I'd done well enough at school to do something competitive like medicine, and almost I guess that wasn't an internal force, but people were saying, you've done well enough, so make sure you use this opportunity. I was interested in science, and I still enjoy that. And I guess I wanted to help people. I did not see myself doing a office job or anything like that. I felt like I was a good communicator, and I wanted to be people facing and to do something like that. I would say that my understanding of what the life of a junior doctor or a doctor would be like was, I didn't have any idea. I don't know whether you ever can. So that's the caveat to that.
You should have watched Doogie Howser.
I should have watched Doogie Howser. Maybe I should have. I don't know. I will watch Doogie Howser. But yeah, I would say that, on that front, it did tick a few of those boxes. I enjoy going into work, chatting with colleagues. I couldn't sit at a desk all day. And at the same time, I have learned so much by going to med school. It's given me some great experiences, and yeah, I think I was well suited to it. I think, you can't anticipate what you're going to be doing in 5 years' time, which is essentially what I was being asked to do when I applied. So it's a bit of a tricky one. But essentially went off to med school, did that. And then in medicine, you have to do F1 and F2, and they're like your foundation year 1 and year 2. I did that in Nottingham and stayed up there. And then the last 4 years, I've been sort of practicing down in London, where I'm from, and mainly been doing things in A&E or very acute medical stuff in both adults and pediatrics, but done a range of stuff. And then last year, decided I was going to apply to be a GP and started my GP training. And that was at St George's in Tooting. But I think, I've paraphrased a lot of stuff, but over that period of time, I was becoming more and more burnt out, I think. Have had a couple of times where I've needed some time off. and I think the pandemic probably made that a lot, sort of accelerated maybe the burnout process. And then essentially in March, I decided to leave my post and handed in my notice. Well, I handed in my notice a bit earlier, but essentially stepped away from that role and tried to just figure out where I was at. I think I just needed a bit of time off, actually not working, because even in the times off that I'd had, it had been very short lived, or I'd been locuming on things like that, and actually hadn't really had much time off. So I guess that's why I have such a well rehearsed answer to all this, because I'm actually in that sort of time off and period of self reflection, really.
Cool. So you are you're training to be a GP. That is something that is no longer your long term plan.
Yeah. So
how far into that did you get? What was your kind of experience of working in that world? Because I'm guessing it's very different to A&E.
So it's a bit complicated, but I will just explain it. So the training in the UK, you train, you do your F1 and F2, that's your mandatory training. And after that, I took time out of training. Right. So I was still practicing as a doctor, but I was kind of like a freelance doctor. Okay. And I essentially did that for 4 years. So I have quite a lot of experience, but actually haven't trained and got very far in the training program.
Sure. So presumably you can take your doctoring skills and apply it to whatever, private practice or whatever you choose.
Yeah, so I was locuming in the NHS. So it was mainly in A&E, paediatric A&E. I did a couple of cool jobs, like worked in a paediatric intensive care, and also I worked in like the NHS Nightingale at the COVID hospital. Yep. So had some cool experiences, but most of it was sort of general medicine in adults and paediatrics.
Sure. Okay, that all makes sense. So yeah, where does, whether it's the NHS or I mean, certainly in the UK, it falls upon the NHS or the government through the NHS to assist and solve what's going on. Because as I said earlier, I slightly give up on society, and if I was in any doubt about whether or not that's a fair conclusion to have come to, the whole COVID era just solidified that for me from a health perspective. Because I can remember when it first started cropping up as an issue, so sort of March 2020, I remember having a conversation with somebody. I was still in my old job then, and they were talking to me about the implications of what was going to potentially happen for world stock markets and so on. I worked in finance back then, and I said, yeah, do you know what? I mean, it could be, if we get shut down for a week, that could be disastrous. I mean, little do we know at the time. But I said, do you know what? What will come out of it, though, that is good, is that people will think, wow, I really should take care of my health. Yeah. Not to worry about how long I'll live when I'm 80, 85, 90, 95, but because at the age of 35, 45, there are still, in 2023 or 2020 as it was then, there are still bad things that can pop up that science isn't ready for. And so relying on whatever we currently have on the shelf in the pharmacy isn't enough. You need to be prepared yourself. I always tell my kids when they were learning to, I don't tell them this anymore, they're adults. When they were little kids, I would always say to them, I'm holding your hand because we're crossing the road. And if they, in fact, as I now tell this story, I should warn people, I'm not a parenting expert either. There is no book to buy on parenting from me, as you're about to hear. As my kids were crossing the road with me holding their hand, if they did not look left and right, they got a smack on the back of the head. Because I would say to them, one day I won't be holding your hand, okay? And so you are responsible. I would say to them as we're crossing the road, I'd say, who is responsible for your safety as we're crossing the road? And I'm holding their hand. And they would all say to me, I am responsible for my own safety. And if they didn't say it, they got another smack on the back of the head. Obviously, don't smack your children, parents. That's a horrendous thing to do. Although all of my children are alive. So swings and roundabouts. That is how I like to live my life. I understand that the government, that the NHS, that all these kind of parental institutions want to hold my hand, but and to some extent I'll allow them to. I'm not cleaning the street myself. I need society to operate with some
absolutely.
sort of governance. But also, I'm looking left and right myself because I don't. Well, even if I do trust whoever's holding my hand to hold it properly, no one's infallible. So, I thought we're going to come out of COVID, whenever we do come out of that, with people thinking, "Wow, I really need to be looking left and right. I need to be getting myself a little bit lighter than I am, eating a little bit less rubbish food, drinking a little bit less,
Yeah.
and we'll be a healthier planet because of it." And the complete opposite has happened. There are a very small number of people, in fact, I'm one of them, who have come out of it healthier.
Yeah.
And actually, I say small number of people. There are a number of people that have seen it as an opportunity to, whether it's improve their mental health or their physical health by adjusting the way they work or live their life. They're coming out of it better. That's great. But it is a minority. The majority of people have simply got less healthy. All the reports from anybody that you care to listen to are that people are in a worse state. And it just makes me think, yeah, I'm right. I'm right to just abandon all hope. But is that being a little bit pessimistic? Is it game over for society? Because at the moment we're on a decline, and if COVID, which is basically translates to, if you, in very simplistic terms, I should highlight, not only am I not a parenting expert, I'm not a doctor either. If we have COVID, if we have a condition that really hammers the unwell, and people come out of that with no desire to be less unwell when they could be if they wished. I appreciate some people, for example, if you are elderly, my dad's 85. My advice to him is not, don't be 85 anymore, Dad, because that's not great for you. He is stuck with what he's got. My brother was very poorly when he was younger. So I am acutely aware that there are many, many people in society who are simply stuck with the condition they have, whether it's age or health, and it is unavoidable and they can't fix it, they can't change it. I get that. But there are a huge number of people that can, and they don't seem to want to. And I just wonder, is that ever going to get any better? And Dr. Dan, you're the man to tell us how. Give us some hope, because it seems to be almost, well, it is. I get depressed talking about it.
It's really depressing, and I think having had some time away from the front line and the NHS, I've kind of realised just how much these are real people that I'm seeing every day, and they're in ill health. It's not and we always talk about mortality, but the amount of morbidity that I see, so that the impact that a disease has on a person's life, is really quite shocking. And if you don't have your health, it massively impacts your quality of life. And I think sometimes it is really depressing. I have felt quite depressed by the whole thing, and having reflected on that, I definitely needed some time off to just recharge and get some clarity over what is my responsibility as the doctor, what's the patient's responsibility, and what is society's responsibility. So that is something we need to, I guess, define a bit more. I don't look at these people, say we have an overweight 50-year-old who's a diabetic and they live in a care home. You're entirely right. They may have had some horrific accident when they were younger, which meant that they were immobile, and certain things happen in life. As doctors and medical professionals, we can put these into sort of risk factor categories. There's modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable risk factors.
Right.
So as a man, I'm much less likely to get things like breast cancer. But there are other risk factors for breast cancer that, or any cancer, that we can modify. Smoking, drinking, obesity, things like that. Again, another example being family history. We can't really change our family history. And there are sort of things we can do, like genetic testing and things, but there are modifiable risk factors that we could be doing as individuals to try and mitigate that risk. And it's not that we need to live forever, but I really think that, the morbidity is the thing that we don't talk about, which actually impacts our quality of life so much more. And, this is why I reached out to you, Mark, because I've seen your channel, I've watched it since you were about 30k subs or something crazy. And I think you speak so candidly and powerfully from that point of view of, I was unhealthy, and it's not that you wanted, maybe you wanted to get more healthy, but actually you weren't. It impacted your life more than the fact that you knew that you were unhealthy. I don't want to speak for you, but
No. Speak away. I mean, no, it did. I was unhealthy. I was too heavy, and did no exercise, and felt. Actually, I was going to say I felt rubbish a lot of the time, like a frog in boiling water. I didn't. It wasn't until I was no longer unhealthy that it became
realised.
so evident. I mean, we were talking earlier. It's a lovely day here in the UK at the moment, and I say it's a lovely day. Today, now, 2023, at my current body weight, it's a lovely day.
Yeah.
If you go back 15 years when I was in my mid-30s, I would be thinking, this is horrific because I can't stop sweating. I can't breathe properly. But I wouldn't have been thinking because I'm unhealthy. I'd have just been thinking it's hot. So doesn't everyone just sweat profusely, constantly? No, the guy with 150 pound of excess body fat does. So no, it did. It wasn't a pleasant way to be, even though I wasn't too aware of it at the time. All I was aware of at the time was, I mean, interestingly, given where we are nowadays with how this is perceived, I was acutely aware of how I looked in my own mind. I looked in the mirror and thought, that is not I don't like it. I don't like what I see. And people have said to me, people have even said to me on my own videos where I talk about this, they've said, oh, you're fat shaming. Who? Yourself.
Yeah.
You're fat shaming yourself. To which I would say, yes. I mean, yes, in the sense that it was a shame I was fat. I did not like being, I didn't look in the mirror and think that's a good look. And on an individual level, I am obviously entitled, I think, to like or dislike what I see in the mirror. And I don't think being 100 pounds overweight is something that many people would sort of jump to defend, really. They certainly shouldn't do.
And I think, you're entirely right. Just quality of life of being overweight, you may have back pain or knee pain or things like that. And it's not just the image. I know these are sensitive topics, and I don't think there is too much to be gained from being abrasive and confrontational when we talk about this. I think a good doctor, will be empathetic and, approach it sensitively. And I think you'll probably get better outcomes if you do that. But at the same time, there are some things beyond image and how you feel about yourself, which I would see these patients and I would have deep empathy for them. When we come back to the responsibility point of view, I found my job as a doctor, because as the patient came into A&E, they were then my responsibility. I found that difficult because actually the patient isn't in good shape. They have multiple risk factors, and part of that is their personal responsibility. And each case is different, and I'm not negating some of the horrible things that people have to go through. And I'm not, shaming people or blaming people. I make bad decisions just as much as anyone. But at the same time, as much as they had some responsibility, I do think there is a large part which is down to society as a wider, responsibility. I don't think we protect our patients very well. And ultimately that's because, when a patient comes into a hospital, the priority is health or, getting them better. And that's always my priority as a doctor when I see a patient, is their health. But we live in a society where actually health is way down on, organizations and governments' agendas.
Yeah.
And above that is notably the economy. And so that discord I was finding difficult, whereas I was, living in a world which is, primarily concerned about money. And actually, I was operating in a world and being asked to operate within a world where health was the main goal. And so I found that difficult. I found it a real big responsibility. I found the work less enjoyable because actually it's harder to get someone that's coming in a worse condition better, because it just is. And I found it difficult because actually then I would try and do the right thing and give a patient, empathetic weight advice or things like that. But I found, I found it depressing and felt quite hopeless, because that I'm going to discharge them into the same environment. And so actually, yes, if they, do everything right, it can be done. But I work really hard personally to stay in shape. And that's because society is constantly trying to trip you up. You buy a new health food and it is loaded with crap, or, you know, you think you're doing the right thing and you're not. And it's all just so complicated.
Yeah.
And then if you add in, you know, to that complexity of the human body, nutrition, science, if you add in a layer of, well, there's financial gain everywhere, and then, you know, it becomes very murky. So I empathize with patients from that point of view, that this is so hard to get right. And, you know, so it's challenging is essentially what I'm trying to say. And it's multifaceted. I do think people have personal responsibility, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, just because someone's overweight means that they're lazy, or I don't subscribe to that at all. I think our society is failing people from a health point of view because, you know, it's not our priority. And
I mean, it's interesting because I agree. I know, to pick up on a couple of points. The image thing is an interesting one because having been heavy, image is more than, or it was for me, is more than just how I look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because my image did affect my health.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm currently putting together a little video on my parkrun history, and it began just after 2010. In 2010, my brother got married, and I was at his wedding in a suit. I can remember getting fitted for the suit at 23 stone, and then the photographs coming back from the wedding, and I look at those photographs now as I looked at them then, and thought, that's a shame that I look like that. I look far larger than I would want to look. I look unhealthy. I look unhealthy. I look, because I'm 6'6", I just look huge. There's, you know, I mean, I'm sure that there'll be people out there that kind of could defend that look, but I couldn't. And as it was me, I kind of feel entitled to have an opinion about it. So, and it would make me miserable. I mean, it made it so much harder to do anything. So the image thing is important. Let's flip it completely. At the moment, I'm getting leaner and leaner because I'm racing in a couple of weeks' time in New York. There is nothing, and this is why I'm not a doctor, and you are. There's a terrible saying that she would be cancelled for if she said now, but many years ago, Kate Moss said that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Yeah,
and you can understand why nowadays that would be a very kind of unhelpful thing to say. But when I get up and look in the mirror in the morning and I think, oh, I'm looking all right for a 50-year-old guy, it is incredibly motivating for me to live my life that day the way I would want to live my life, compared to looking in the mirror and thinking, I perceive that as looking a bit of a mess. And so I can't bother to go running, because really, what difference is it going to make? Am I ever going to get anywhere? If you had said to me then, oh, don't worry, in 10 years' time, I mean, that just seems like a lifetime away. So the image is an important part of it. We all have mirrors. We all know what we look like. But actually, touching on something I just said then, and something you'd mentioned as well, the wanting to look like, when I look in the mirror and I want, as I do today, I look in the mirror and think, I want to train today. I want to be in better shape tomorrow. You can't, or at least I don't believe, you can turn that off and on. There's a huge degree of luck as to whether you are somebody who, when they looks in the mirror, thinks, I want that. I regard myself, and people often say to me, you're incredibly motivated. Yeah, maybe, but I'm actually just really incredibly lucky that when I look in the mirror, I am the sort of person who sees an improved physique, let's say, and is motivated by that, and my brain does all the relevant clicking and whirring to leave me concluding, let's work out today.
Yeah.
But that's luck. I didn't at the age of 0 design my brain to work that way any more than I designed it to work the way that when it sees a donut, it will eat it.
Yeah,
these aren't skills that I've learned. These are just these. And people often say, "Well, if I was him, I would do." No, if you were him, you would do what he did. I mean, that's the case. People say, "Oh, well, if I was him, I'd be doing this, that, and the other." No, whatever he's doing, whoever you're talking about, if you were him, you'd be doing what he's doing.
Mm.
Because every experience you'd have had, every thought that would occur to your brain, they'd be the same as the ones he's having, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. So on an individual level, yeah, I agree with you. I feel complete sympathy. I'm not sure sympathy is the right word. I understand completely why somebody won't be able to necessarily get themselves where society says they should, just by, walk a bit more and eat a bit less. It's as easy as that. For some people, it's not.
Yeah.
And I think to say, well, it is just I did it. Well, yes, but great. That's like me saying to you, tomorrow be 6'6". I am.
Yeah.
Why can't you? Your body's not like that. So why should your brain be able to just change instantly overnight? So I have huge sympathy, which is why when people do come to me individually and say, hey, here's my journey, here's my story, can you assist in any way? I'm all for helping. The trouble is when you broaden it out to society, I don't know where you'd even start. I know if someone comes to me and says, I'm Bob and I'm a bit too fat and I don't want to be, I can help Bob. But when someone says to me, what do we do about Berkshire? Okay, I'm stuck. So so where does that leave us then? Because you've got people coming to you, and this is the bit that I'm fascinated by. Someone comes to you in a GP environment or an A&E, and in fact A&E actually is probably a better example, because I guess in A&E, people are coming to you sometimes not because of their being overweight or unhealthy. They're coming to you because they've fallen or something, and broken a hip, and you must be thinking on occasion, well, if you weren't whatever 5, 6, 7 stone overweight and had been to the gym a couple of times ever, you wouldn't have broken your hip. Me, as the never be a doctor because I'd be useless, is thinking, tell that person. I have every sympathy for because I would have been that person at one point. So I have every sympathy for them, but they need to be told, so that you don't break your hip on the other side the next time, what you need to do between now and as soon as possible is drop some weight, join a gym or whatever. Don't join, go do park run, go do whatever. Do some form of exercise, move your body in some way. You need to do that, and you will feel better. You'll be healthier. We won't see you to fix the other hip in a few years' time. That will save us some money as well. Great for everybody. But I'm assuming that you, well, do you say it to people? What happens to people that come in that are basically compounding their problems by lifestyle choices?
Yeah. So I think weight is a difficult one to do in that. So let's take the example of smoking, for example.
Yes.
So say someone comes in and they have, I don't know, a heart attack, and it's because they've got a plaque that's ruptured, and the blood supply to their heart is impaired, and they get chest pain. So in that moment, we can treat them. Say they don't have a procedure, but we have to start them on an aspirin. And at that point, it's a really good time to sort of double down on the worry, the emotions of this whole thing. That, the patient doesn't know, nothing is guaranteed at that point. They're fearing for their life, and very, very rightly so.
Yeah.
So it's a really unique opportunity for a healthcare professional, say if they smoked, to say, look, you need to stop smoking. Smoking is a massive risk factor for atherosclerosis. So that is really sound advice. When it comes to diet and weight management, that is slightly more difficult. You can't just say you need to stop eating, because obviously, and I think that's why society finds weight so difficult. We've touched on addictions before we started the podcast, and weight is one of those ones that you can't treat with abstinence. So it is slightly more challenging. And I think doctors get nervous about how to go about it. I think you don't want to cause offense just being in that situation. I think less and less we feel backed up maybe by society, without touching upon it too much, that it's something that's okay to be said. Whereas smoking very much is, demonized in society. It's banned, it's illegal inside, and almost there is legislation to back up the sound literature, which we have lots of, to give out that advice with some confidence. It's, the literature is there. We know that being obese is very bad for you, but I don't think people feel as, backed up, or I don't know what the word is for that, but as confident to give that advice. And often, I think if you looked into it, I think doctors would find it, I personally find it very uncomfortable. Whereas approaching someone about their drinking or their smoking, I feel much more confident. So
Yes, okay, that's where it gets interesting.
yeah,
Because I get that completely. It is far easier to say to somebody, do not smoke, full stop. Okay. You can't say to someone, do not eat, clearly. The solution to smoking is, on paper, incredibly straightforward. You just do not have another cigarette. Obviously, the reality of how you make that happen
very true.
is, for some people, horrifically
Yeah.
hard. But on paper, what they're trying to do is a very simple one-step process, which is do not have a cigarette.
Yeah.
The solution for being obese is equally horrifically hard for some people, and I've spoken enough times on videos about how I will eat when I'm having a kind of binge eating moment with absolutely zero control. I mean, people do not. If you've not had, I say if you've not had, most people know somebody who's had some form of addictive behavior issue, whether it's drink, drugs, sex, food, whatever it might be, smoking, whatever. There's enough people know somebody that actually, if they stopped and really thought about it, they would go, okay, yeah, I've seen that behavior before, because it is uncontrolled. When I am eating and I know I shouldn't, I'm not being gluttonous or greedy. I mean, it's almost comical that I'll have times where I'm sat. In fact, I can remember quite vividly, fairly recently, pouring myself my third bowl of Cocoa Pops, sprinkling onto the Cocoa Pops chocolate chips, and not wanting them, didn't want them. I was feeling sick, but for whatever reason, my body was going, no, you're going to eat these.
Yeah.
So I'm acutely aware of what I'm doing. I'm not. We've spoken about other types of addiction. I'm not in any kind of drink or drug induced haze as I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm on it, and mentally, in terms of I know what I'm doing, and I sprinkle the chocolate chips, and I then eat them, and probably went back for a fourth bowl. And it's not hunger, it's not greed. I'm not thinking, oh, I really want these. I'm thinking, I really don't want these. I don't want to eat them, and I eat them anyway. So I understand completely when people say, yeah, it's outside my control. It is. Your brain is not always on your side. So people saying, oh, willpower, no, that doesn't always work, because the willpower comes from your brain, which is also the very organ that is telling you to eat the Cocoa Pops. It's the same thing. It's almost like kind of go to the police. Well, if the police are corrupt, then I have a corrupt police in my head. So sympathy for the individuals, because I appreciate how staggeringly hard it is, but also you're faced with. Let's go back to this example. You're faced with someone comes in, they've had a heart attack because they smoke, or at least smoking has compounded that.
Yeah.
You feel confident in saying to them, pack in the smoking, because that's not helping. Somebody comes into you, they're obese, and they've had some form of anything that is compounded by that obesity, and we know that person. We know it's pointless to just say to that person, go away and lose weight. That's a pointless exercise. We know it is way more complicated than, hey, eat more, exercise more, eat less, the laws of thermodynamics, blah, 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 problem solved. We know it's way more complicated than that. But it seems to be that because it's more complicated than that, we just go, patched you up on your way. And nothing gets said. And these people are just kind of walking back out into society to Burger King. And when I say to Burger King, I'm not kind of ridiculing the plight of the overweight. I'm telling you what I would have done and did. I have asthma. Hardly ever. I can't remember last time I had asthma attack. Literally can't remember. But I can remember in my 20s and 30s when I was very overweight, going to hospital, getting put on a nebulizer for my asthma being out of control, and then getting discharged at whatever 3 o'clock in the morning when it finally calmed down, and stopping at Mr. Cod in Cemetery Junction for a chicken burger before going home. So it would have been me. I understand. It would have been, and no one no one said to me, even then, "Oh, Mr. Lewis, your asthma's calmed down. It probably would help if you weren't 23 stone anymore."
Yeah.
No one said that to me. And if they did, I don't know what difference it would have made. I don't know if I would have, I don't know, had one chicken burger instead of two on the way home. I don't know. But it would have been better than just off you go. See you next month.
Yeah. And I think this is the other thing that I found difficult with working in the NHS at the moment is it's all pathology that you're dealing with, and services in the community are very stretched. Our GP services are so stretched. So even say before you bring in the modifiable risk factors, say you have a patient that has a condition and you're discharging to a community service, even then you just feel like you're moving a problem, and you can't be too confident with the infrastructure and our society, the way that that's working at the moment. But then you bring in this extra, layer of complexity of, should I be adding, some advice, some lifestyle advice, and how is that going to impact the patient or not? And, I don't want to speak for the whole NHS or for the whole of society, but it's difficult. As an individual, I was hungry and trying to find a healthy snack in a corner shop or in a supermarket, and beyond like eating a piece of fruit or a piece of vegetable or a piece of chicken, it's hard to find a food that you can be confident is a fairly tasty whole food source of nutrition, which has like 4 or 5 ingredients. If you turn around your ingredients of a boot sandwich or any kind of sandwich, you'll see in there stuff that you will not find in your kitchen. And I listened to a very good podcast on the Zoe podcast about how to look for unprocessed or processed foods and ultra processed foods. And there is a growing evidence that, that in itself is, these are all the things that are trying to trip us up. But, I'm a junior doctor. I'm not qualified as a GP or anything. And, I have some experience, and that has, massively impacted my opinions. But I don't want to speak for the whole NHS, but it's as just an individual that cares a lot and is looking for these things and is educated on these things, I find it very difficult to find a healthy snack when I'm walking down the street. And if we're discharging our patients into that environment, what do we anticipate will be the outcome? And then when you're working as the doctor that's doing that, that's quite depressing.
I wonder what because the easiest way to target in that little chain of events you just described, someone comes to you, overweight, unhealthy, got a medical problem, you patch them up, send them on their way.
Yeah.
The care in the community support is lacking. The junk food is not lacking. There's a whole series of things there that could be altered, whether it's your interaction with the patient, whether it's the junk food availability. There's a whole bunch of things we could do. I just wonder because the easy one is to go after the junk food. I say easy one. It's actually not easy because of the junk food lobby is obviously all powerful. So actually, it's not easy to go after them and achieve a result. But what it is easy to do is to go after them in public and make it look like you're doing so, because it's a if a government official says, "Oh, there's too many junk foods out there," no one's going to disagree with them. So there's no contentious issues surrounding the fact that it should be solved. But the result is nothing happens because the people behind that industry are too powerful.
Absolutely.
So a lot of noise, and there's a lot of vocal kind of input to sugar tax and all those sort of things that sounds good, but ultimately goes nowhere. So it's almost, to me, as an expert in nothing, that almost seems a pointless exercise. Talking about it achieves nothing. They're too powerful. It just seems to me that in terms of picking your battles, rather than fighting the sugar lobby with their billions of pounds of resources, it just seems like it would be easier, although far less comfortable, to tackle the individual when they're sat on the hospital bed.
Yeah.
And then screw the sugar companies, because they don't. For example, we were talking about football earlier. I've never watched a game of football in my life. And so when people moan to me about the price of tickets or the price of kit or how footballers get paid too much, I think I couldn't care less. I was going to name a footballer then to give an example, but then what I came up with was Paul Gascoigne because I saw it was his birthday recently. That's how far my football knowledge goes. If someone said to me, he earns too much money, does he? I don't care. I've never paid the guy a penny.
Yeah.
I never bought a kit. I never signed up to Sky TV. I've never. He's had not a penny from me ever. So good luck to him. The same with junk food tax, and I really don't care. You could fill supermarkets with junk food. They could be junk food 99%. Don't care. Not buying it. So I don't care. I care because society. That's horrific to do that. So when I see 100 KFCs in a row, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is this doing for society? Personally, couldn't care less. Not going to eat it. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I just think forget the junk food companies and just go straight to the problem, which is the individual. Because if, for example, if every junk food company was banned tomorrow, you would still have people that were obese. You just would. If every obese person stopped eating junk food, you wouldn't have junk food companies tomorrow. They'd be gone. So it just seems a pity that we can't put our discomfort about talking about the issue to one side and address where the problem lies, which is in the unhealthy. When I say unhealthy approach to life that some people are taking, again, we keep emphasizing the same point. I'm not, you're not either, blaming them. We're not even holding these people to account. It is in many ways outside their ability to do anything about it on their own, unsupported. In fact, if anything, it's easier to find in 2023 support for being unhealthy than it is the alternative. If I lose a bit of weight, as I'm doing at the moment, it won't be long before my mum says to me, "Are you feeling okay? Are you unwell? What are you talking about, mum? I'm a flipping athlete. I'm fine." But if I wanted to jump on Instagram and find someone saying that it's big and healthy, and I even follow some people that run and are overweight and promote the idea that you can be interesting. I also promote the idea that heavy people can run. I did change my life. I mean, anybody can run. Slow it down, go shorter distances, whatever. But anybody can run. Mm-hmm. But I follow people that promote the idea that you can be heavy, remain heavy, stay heavy, no problem with being heavy, and run. I don't believe that. I don't believe that your joints are designed to be 20 stone at 5'8" and run on a regular basis. That does my head when I see that. But as someone that was a heavy runner, if I found that information back when I started running, it wasn't available then, I'm not sure that it wouldn't have derailed me. On the times where I was thinking, can I really bother to go out running? Would a burger not be better? Having, if it existed at the time, Instagram pop up and tell me, yeah, it's fine, have 3 burgers, you can still go running, you'll just be a fat runner. That's a good thing, all power to you. It would have derailed me. I was always under the impression that being grossly overweight, as I was, in a literal sense, was not a good thing. And there was no value to it. There was no positive element to my being hugely overweight.
Yeah.
Nothing. And that doesn't mean I was getting. In fact, I got very little as a man. Again, I'm sure it would have been different if I were a lady, but as a man, especially a big man, I would just get people would say, "Oh, big Mark." There was no negative connotations to being, as I was, obese. To me, there was nothing positive about it. Today, I can easily find that there's positives about it because I've been told it from all directions. So it just seems to me, yeah. I mean, we have to go back, surely. Or I say go back. We have to start at the start, which is the person that's unhealthy. What? Because what you're saying then, it doesn't seem like it's going to get vastly better. The people like yourself who think this isn't right, stop doing it, that leaves the people that are presumably content to kind of toe the I was going to say the kind of the party line on it, but just it's just the way it is. We don't upset people. We don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. In 5 years' time, how are people going to be healthier on a whole then than they are now?
Yeah, I'm not sure we are going the right way. Just to clarify, I left or took a break from the NHS because of my own sort of dissatisfaction with it, which this is a part of.
Yeah.
So it wasn't some sort of stand against not being able to say what I think in A&E, just to clarify that. But I think you've touched on a few things. So I think, essentially what we're trying to say is that actually it's hard to stay healthy. That's the sort of summary of what we're saying.
Yeah.
As time goes on and we become more modern as a society, we're making it harder for individuals to stay healthy. And I would agree with that. I think, the patient cohort that I'm talking about when I see them in A&E, that is so far removed from the people that are probably listening to your channel. You've probably got sort of amateur athletes, people that want to be above average, and they have an interest. They know about micronutrients or their macro splits. And these patients, they are, unfortunately, a large majority of them are from the more deprived areas of society. They have things like addictions, and health is so far down on their personal priority list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their lives are chaotic. So almost, they're a very different group of people. I do still think that, for maybe the people in the middle, which are, the 30-year-olds that are overweight and probably working in finance, smoke, and drink 20 pints on the weekend, they are probably the people that we, could make a difference with. That the message of take care of yourself, they probably need to hear it the most. I think that's why I resonated with your story and your channel, because essentially you are the embodiment of that. And how many people, in their 20s sort of forfeit their health to gain status or power or financial resources, then to retire overweight, and then spend the rest of their retirement trying to claw back their health.
Yeah.
It's kind of the done thing.
Or just die. Yeah. Nowadays, retire at 70.
Yeah.
And if you're unhealthy, to be alive at 75 might be a stretch.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to the individual. So you touched upon this idea of whether someone believes that I'm just going to turn out the way I am and sort of fate, or the idea that I can influence the future. And I think in psychology, this is called the locus of control, whether you have an internal and external locus of control. So if you have an external locus of control, you believe that whatever happens, you're going to end up having whatever happens to you. So it's sort of like, well, so be it. That was always going to happen. And as a result, you can sort of take no responsibility, well, not no responsibility, but less responsibility for the actions or the behaviors that you're taking. If you have an internal locus of control, you may naively believe that if you do something, it may sort of influence the outcome. And I think the psychology, again, I've read this a while ago, but I think people with an internal locus of control in general are much more successful. And I think you could probably put that into fitness. I imagine people with an internal locus of control are, have a lower body weight. I think if we took that as a surrogate marker of fitness.
It's interesting. I've listened to a lot of stuff like Sam Harris talking about free will and so on. And I kind of sit somewhere in the middle, in that I get completely the examples that are given of why we might not have any free will. Because if I say to you, think of a movie, the movie that comes to your mind, you didn't choose that, and you didn't choose to pick that movie over another movie. It's just there. And the minute you realize that every thought you have is just kind of presented to you from your brain, deep within it, it's not that you can just conjure up those thoughts. Yeah, so those thoughts just happen. If I wake up one day wanting to work out or not wanting to work out, there was nothing I did that put that thought into my head. And then where it becomes really fascinating is if I wake up not wanting to work out, but then through my own grit and determination and my kind of, Goggins-esque approach to life, decide that I will work out anyway. Why did that thought come to me that I will now work out? Why? Because out of all the people that woke up that morning thinking I'm going to stay in bed, why did my brain go, nope, we're going to do something else instead? So I'm a great believer in. A great believer. I understand the idea that an awful lot of what comes to my head, this is anyone that's wondering, is he a doctor really? The things that happen in my head. So let me dumb this down. Things pop up in my head, and I'm fairly relaxed with the idea that I didn't really do much for that to happen. They just happen. The actually first thing, once you accept that you have less free will, shall we say, than people might otherwise assume, it does make you very empathetic for other people, because when somebody else says to me, "Oh, I can't but have another drink," rather than me going, "Well, what's wrong with you? Pull yourself together," I think, I get it. If your brain's telling you have a drink, you aren't in control of that any more than I'm in control of another donut. So. Now, having said things just pop into my head, and I then just regard myself as lucky or unlucky that they did. The reason I don't therefore just say, well, therefore give up on everything and just let it all flow, is that I kind of believe that I'm more like I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this and can't think of one, but I'm kind of like here's one. Okay, I'm a bucket of water tipped over on the beach, rolling back down towards the ocean. Okay, and I'm just going to go towards the ocean. That's just happening. So my lack of free will is that I'm going to the ocean. However, rocks, shells, ditches in the way are all going to kind of dictate how I get there. So I'm a great believer in things like implementing good habits and surrounding myself with the right kind of coarse distractions that make things popping into my head far more likely to be ones that actually lend themselves to a productive outcome.
Absolutely.
So I can't, if we're talking about equipment, I can't just conjure up a great YouTube video. But if I put in place all the right bits of kit and it just makes it far more likely that will happen.
Yeah.
Than if I just sat down with nothing but a 15-year-old iPhone and not even that old and just started recording just gibberish into it. If I sit down in front of
Are you referencing my YouTube channel there, Mark?
A structured process around me, and it's the same. So, for example, when I wake up and think, "Oh, should I bother working out today?" If my gym gear is out on the side ready for me, and I know where my trainers are, and I know, my watch is already programmed for the distance I'm going to run. It doesn't make the thought, yes, I will train, any more under my control or not. But it just seems to make sense to me that it's far more likely to be a thought that pops up than if I didn't have those things in place. For example, if I say to you now, what's your favorite color? You're going to have a thought that pops up. But you would never have had a color pop into your head unless I'd asked the question. So the thoughts that occur to you are instigated from an external influence. So what I try and do is I try and structure my life in such a way that I am just far more likely to be lucky enough to have the right thoughts pop up. And some people, in the same way that some people aren't 6'6", some people are 5'6". Some people, this could make it sound unlucky to be 5'6" now. Some people have different thoughts pop up into their head. I'm lucky that some of mine are good, some of mine are terrible. For other people, the ratio might be swung the other way. So no, your point about the kind of the free will and what you decide and what you don't decide is an interesting one. I'm kind of in the middle on it, I think that accepting that, to go the other direction. If you are somebody who is a huge believer in the idea that you're in control of everything, then before you know it, you're just listening to every kind kind of motivational guru, inverted commas, on Instagram for little sound bites, and whether it's I listen to those guys. I listen to Goggins, for example.
But then you don't make a decision, and you don't ever commit to anything, and you have paralysis by analysis.
Absolutely,
and because you have to make the right move, because so almost as much as it is a responsibility, I am in control of my future. It's also liberating to recognize that actually whatever happens, because and it is a grey area. I've got a few things to touch on there. You're talking about free will and whether we have influence on that, and if we do have a degree of influence, and where our locus of control we feel is, can we use that to, maybe we aren't in control of generating their thoughts, but maybe we can influence whether those thoughts are positive or negative and lead to positive or negative behaviors.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah,
and I wanted to pick up on a few things, but firstly is to do with the fact that we don't generate our own thoughts, and actually I was a patient and had some cognitive behavioral therapy. I was struggling with anxious thoughts and negative thoughts towards myself. And actually, although I was, I don't think anything has changed. I still think the random process of thought generation is ongoing in my brain, and I have good days and bad days. I was able, through a course of therapy and some understanding of that process, that it is random. I was able to navigate which thoughts do I pay attention to, which thoughts do I challenge. I was introduced to the idea of sort of mistakes, or thought errors, they're called, where you can make something seem very big. So although it's a thought, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So you may catastrophize. I've got a podcast coming up and I'm a bit nervous about it, and you catastrophize what the outcome may be if you don't perform very well in it. And actually, you just realize, actually, it's a podcast. What's the worst that can happen? It's just not very interesting, and someone doesn't listen. So, as much as there is definitely this sort of lack of free will in maybe thought generation, at the same time, we can influence, and things like CBT demonstrate that, we can have massively positive outcomes despite the patient and the brain being exactly the same. So, on the flip side, you have this whole thing called marketing, where we're constantly biting for people's attention, trying to influence people. So I'm hungry, that may be the thought, but then how do we influence where that person goes and where they spend their money? So that was kind of on that point.
Which actually is interesting because if we just take that point and go back to our overweight, unhealthy person leaving hospital, there should be an influence that's kind of exerting itself upon them to try and guide their thoughts, that is, be healthier. But it's not coming.
No.
But there's no moral qualms from the sugar industry, which is exerting all its influence, saying, come and eat some crap.
Yeah.
So bizarrely, you've got the people that have the good message that are a bit shy to give it, and the people with the horrific message that ultimately is going to contribute towards killing them are more than happy to ply their trade.
Yeah. Advertising is, a large part of that obesogenic environment that we talk about. Trying to influence people.
It's almost unfair. It should be like in political campaigns in America, where you can't spend so much on promoting one candidate over another. It should be the law that I'm not a lawmaker either, just to clarity. It should be the law that for every pound that the junk food industry spends on advertising, the health industry should be able to spend on promotion of health. And it doesn't even try. In fact, the best example during COVID is when there was, early in 2020, there was a push by the government, because I remember seeing the message come out and thinking, hey, this is going in the right direction, where they were talking about, hey, let's all be a bit healthier. And then almost within a week, that message disappeared completely, because the eat out for two type deal came up instead. And I can remember thinking, wow, in fact, I can remember feeling really sorry for the government, minion that had come up with that health message and kind of gone to his boss and said, yeah, this is good, let's put this message out. And then basically is told, yeah, your whole, that's all being scrapped because we're doing 2 pizzas for 1 instead. I mean, at that
to
point,
save the economy.
to say, but exactly, because that's more important. That for me, that just that was the the pizza shaped nail in my coffin. Was that one? Yeah. So
No,
yeah. Anyway, so you're saying
no, I mean the thing is that these advertisers are very astute and have a very good way of, you said it's not fair. It kind of isn't fair because because it's our brain, we are vulnerable. So we see that with dopamine, we see that with screen use and addiction to computer games, and even the gambling industry using sounds and near misses and things like these that have been shown in psychology to spike dopamine. So they are using almost this thing against us. It goes back to sort of conditioning and Pavlovian dogs and that idea. And that's not just in TikTok or in online gambling, but also in advertising. And, you hear the sort of McDonald's whistle and, 20 minutes later you're hungry. It's difficult. And I guess that's in all of us. And there's a very interesting part, I don't know what part of the book, but in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. And he says that, Descartes was saying that I think, therefore I am. And he was sort of arguing that I can't just think I'll be, 6'6", and then be it. And he was, saying that actually no, we have a human nature, and everyone has that human nature. It feels great to eat loads or have sex, but we have to contend with that nature. And when we're talking about it in a societal point of view, it is a personal responsibility to not go around behaving in a way that just makes us feel good.
Yes,
and
that
we
would not be a good society to live in.
No, and we do have to contend with that nature. And almost, I think we're not quite getting that right with certain things.
Yeah, I mean, I was. Yeah, it's a pity we can't kind of conclude with a solution.
That you were never going to get a solution from me, Mark.
No, no, you let me down. Because it does feel like you've got, on the one hand, the health industry feeling a little bit apprehensive about doing anything, and the, let's call it, anti-health industry couldn't care less about what it does to get more money. And then you've got Joe Blogg's average in the middle, who is, it's like, are they going to get pulled one way or the other way? Well, they're not going to get pulled by the health industry because the health industry is not pulling them. There is no.
I mean, at the moment, in this country at least, the health industry is just trying to deal with the emergencies.
Indeed, the health exactly. Yes,
it's not a health service. Everyone in the service is very sick, and actually, health is like, and almost that is personally my. Just from a professional point of view, I'm finding that difficult because I want to talk about health, and actually I find pathology and prescribing the same drugs or discharging to the same problematic services in the community, I find that not very interesting. And personally, I've told you earlier, I started a personal training qualification. I think I'm going to try and get into that, and there are people in the health industry that are starting to speak up about it. This idea of preventative medicine. I was at the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine conference, and there is lots of good work. I'm absolutely not speaking for the whole health service, so
sure.
I just want to signpost people that there is change, but I do think we're swimming against a tide that is quite strong.
It feels like us talking about how the health industry should improve things in this regard. It is almost like us kind of walking upon a couple of paramedics working on a horrific car crash and saying, "Hey, my finger hurts. You got some time to do this?" Because no, they haven't got time to do that. They're trying to stop the people that are in 5 different bits from dying, and that's kind of where it feels like the health service in this country just feels like, it would almost be pointless asking it to come up with some sort of radical, and it would need to be radical, approach to anything regarding improving lifestyle and fitness.
Yeah.
When, as you say, it's bogged down currently with dealing with backlogs that are longer than they've ever been.
No, and it leaves a lot down to the individual to go find those guidelines or go have that conversation with their GP, and then start their own journey on their own. It puts a lot on the individual if they do want to change, because we don't have the resources
Because
currently.
where do they go? I mean, let's say, and I was lucky in that I never needed to find somebody. I literally just woke up one day, again, lucky. I woke up, thought, I'm not going to eat so much today. I'm going to try running. That seems like a good idea. I had no, I had no involvement in placing that thought into my head. It just appeared there. I might as well take credit for my dreams or something. So I was lucky in that sense. If I wasn't so lucky, if I was today at the age of nearly 50, which is what actually terrified me. It terrified me turning 40 and being very unhealthy, because I thought at the time 40 was old, and therefore being unhealthy and old would be double whammy. I can't wait to turn 50 now. I feel great. But if I was in the place where I was at 35 today, nearly 50, and was looking to not be unhealthy anymore, my gut reaction is to say, go and watch YouTube, knowing what I know. But I mean, is that what it's come down to? Is it? I mean, what's the if I went to see my GP, if I somehow managed to get an appointment to go and see my GP, and said, "Doctor, I'm at least 5 or 6 stone overweight. I feel lousy, and I'm thinking of starting running or something. I really don't know. What do I do?" Is the doctor going to say, "Oh, I'm glad you came in. Let me talk to you," or is he going to say, "Are you kidding? I've got 10 people out there that are dying. Get out of here.
I mean,
come back when you're dying."
I think they'd be really. I'd like to think they would give you the time of day.
I'm going to put on a fat suit and do it as a YouTube video.
Yeah, no, I'd like to think that most people would give you the time of day. I don't think they would maybe spend the whole 10 minutes. I'd probably see it as an opportunity to catch up because everyone is so stretched. But at the same time, there are resources
catch up
out
on
there.
what? Just other things they got to do.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be behind. Yeah, So this is the thing. We're talking in a very idealistic world in this podcast studio. When I'm at work, it's carnage, and as much as we're talking about preventative health, there are lots of aspects of which the NHS deals with, which are accidents or horrible diseases. That can't be put down to obesity or
of course.
lack of exercise.
Yes.
And we do some great work. There is a lot of brilliant work going on in the NHS, but it is struggling. We have a workforce that is on strike. Nursing, doctors, maybe even consultants now thinking about striking.
Yeah.
So it's just not a good picture currently. But despite that, there's still some really good care being done in some really good places. When it comes to then the priorities, things like a patient coming in for weight loss advice naturally just get dropped down because actually you've got 50 people on your list and you have to figure out, do 2 of those people have cancer when they come in with tummy pain? Maybe not. It's hard. And so
what's the and we were talking about processes earlier for making YouTube videos. Far more important. Is there not a process that someone? I mean, let's go back to my example. I go in. I'm thinking of buying this fat suit now and going to a doctor and see if it will work. I go to my doctor, who hasn't seen me in 15 years. He probably thought I'd looked the same as I always did. And I say, "Help me. What do I do? I've got no idea where to go. What do I do? Do I Weight Watchers? Do I slim fast? Do I buy step aerobics? What do I do, doctor?" You're telling me he's going to start snacking on his lunch because he's got no other time.
No, but I mean,
if the dude pulls out a burger in front of me,
it's a nice consultation, So when you've got a
but what am I going to leave with? What is Fat Mark going to leave with that enables him to take his life in a new direction after that doctor's appointment? Or does he just need to get on YouTube?
I'm not sure. So I am sure, I'm not a GP, but I'm sure there's some GPs that absolutely lap up that kind of consultation and know exactly what they're saying. I'm sure there are others that don't do it so well. I'm sure, there are NHS guidelines about activity and things like that. I'm sure most doctors would point you towards that. But beyond that, I don't then maybe there's some community projects that I don't know about. Physio, weight loss programs.
If you'd continued and you'd gone on, let's just imagine let's play pretend. Let's say you are a GP. You've gone down that road.
God.
Because I can, and the only example I have that compares to this, when I was in financial services, it did my head in. I wanted to get out. And every now and again, I'd meet a client and we'd conduct our financial services business very quickly, and that would then be done. And then they'd say to me, "Oh, you do that jogging thing, don't you?" And I think, "Oh, amazing! I get to talk to someone about jogging." And I'd often have meetings that would be hours and hours long, where we talked about nothing but health and fitness. And the clients I'd love going to see were the ones that were into their any sort of health and fitness, yoga, didn't matter what it was. I talk about it. Would you, as a GP, have been the sort of? Would you like to think you'd been the sort of person that would have relished the opportunity to discuss? But then I'm thinking back to my discussions with people. If you've got 10 minutes with them, what can you do in 10 minutes?
No, exactly. So it's a really hard task. I don't know what services are out there. I'm recalling now from some of my GPs placements, they had things like run clubs where they'd have patients come for walks and things like that.
Right.
So there are things out there. And whether this is all right or wrong, I think I see two sides of the argument a bit more now. A lot of people say, medics don't even know about nutrition and healthy lifestyles and things like that. And that, there is some truth in that. But at the same time, when you're at med school, there is so much to learn, and you do have to do it on a priority basis, and that a clinical need that is
my
way
guess would
up.
be if you aren't someone that is naturally interested in health and fitness,
you aren't
going to be someone that comes out of med
and you
school.
can do that in medicine just like in any other career.
Yeah, of course.
You can have an interest that you're interested in, and probably something that you'd rather someone else saw, and you probably don't give your best consultation for an ear infection if you're not into ENT as if you're into health and fitness. Yeah. So there is that human aspect of healthcare, and often GPs will have a specialist interest. And so, if I was a GP, it would probably be health and fitness and pediatrics. Those are the two things that I really like. I may come back to GP as well at some point. So just to put that in there. But yeah, I don't know what the services are. I imagine there could be more. I think that would be a fair statement to say.
An ideal world. Let's just wrap up by wishful thinking. Wouldn't it be amazing if when you went, because actually to summarise what we've concluded, society is getting less fit, and nothing's going to change. Now, and that's pretty much where we're at. Wouldn't it be nice if when you went to your GP surgery was almost a kind of a weird blend of traditional GP surgery that we all know and love. And I should add, I'm here today because the NHS, my asthma would have killed me when I was a little kid. My wife has a peanut allergy. She'd be dead too. Yeah. In fact, all my kids have had one thing or another wrong with them at some point that would have been a disaster without the NHS. So, well done, NHS. Wouldn't it be amazing if your GP surgery was more like a kind of, what I'm describing now, it probably exists in rich areas of California or something, like a kind of a lifestyle practice where, sure, you went along and you saw your GP because you got a tummy ache in it, but goodness knows what it is. But also, Wednesday evenings at 7:00, there's yoga going on in the yoga studio, and the GP that says, "Oh, the reason your arm aches is because you've got no mobility. Come on a Wednesday night to the yoga class; they'll sort you out." And it was just like a lifestyle practice where you could refer the overweight person to the Weight Watchers Club, and you could refer the person that's whatever, the little old lady that's got osteoporosis, you could get her to go and do the OAP kettlebell class or something to increase bone density. There was just a way to go, well, hey, here's you with your deficiency, problem, whatever it might be, ailment, and over here is the solution. Yeah. What happens at the moment, it seems, is you go in, you go, well, we can't even talk about what your deficiency is because it'd be offensive to tell you what your deficiency is. Off you go. It just seems I can see why it would be a frustrating profession to be in. The worry I have is that what happens, and this is the case of any sort of profession like this. Financial services had it to a certain extent. The people that, like yourself, that see the problems and think, "Wow, those problems are they would do my head in," and the solution is for me to instead go do something a bit different. What it then leaves is the people that either don't see those problems or don't care about those problems, or well, I don't know what else. I don't know, or are just incredibly tolerant. Maybe all of our GP surgeries are filled up by GPs who are as frustrated about the whole setup as you and I are.
I think they are.
But are just, are they? I hope they are.
No, because
I hope they're incredible. You're going to be on the side of the GPs, which is good.
No,
I hope they're
I think it's very
tolerant people.
easy to, more and more is being asked of our GPs. So we're trying to put things in the community. It's cheaper. We've just spent the whole podcast saying that our population is getting more and more comorbid.
Yeah.
So there's more risk in GP. Everyone, the NHS is not doing a very good job. All of the hospital staff are striking, and more is falling onto the GPs. I'm not saying that every GP is perfect, but I think they get quite a bad rap. I think we need more doctors. I think we need more nurses. And I think it's getting harder. So when I'm clerking a patient, they may have like 12 medications. All of those have side effects. We call it polypharmacy, where you have more than, I think, 4 medications. It's called polypharmacy. And almost you end up feeling like you're just trying to treat the side effects of these medications, and or is there actually something wrong with this patient? They're high risk because they need to be on 12 medications apparently.
Yeah.
So it muddies the water, and I think we're looking at it through the lens of health and fitness. That is a really positive message, and it's preventative. The problem is that often when it comes to A&E, we're past that, and we're now in the realm of disease. And the NHS is very good at treating people with life-threatening conditions very quickly, and it's managed to maintain that despite increasing pressures and things like that. There are things that are, still not great. I'm not going to, but we're talking about a very idealistic world. But at the same time, as an individual working in that system, it's very stressful. And I'm not alone. Everyone's on strike, so it's not just me that's sort of feeling like this.
Yeah.
And equally, I'm still that boy that was interested in people science and wanting to help people, and I find it difficult to do that when I'm just sort of like trying to spin all these plates and put out these fires, because I don't feel like I'm doing a great job. And maybe that is a selfish point of view, but equally, it's my job, it's my life, and at some point, you have to look after yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you say selfish. I mean, what I'm almost, I feel blessed in a way, in that what I'm able to do is almost the opposite, because I have the same wants to help and motivate and entertain people to a certain extent. And what I get through doing YouTube and doing stuff like this is a constant stream of people saying, "We hear your message, we love it, we want to support it." I mean, occasionally you get obviously lunatics that say, "Oh, yeah, you're a vegan, you're a lunatic," but the vast majority of people, it's amazing. But the only way I've been able to sort of curate this world where I give my message and people come back to me saying, "Love it," is by effectively saying, my world ends outside of YouTube.
Yeah.
If I had to contend with the reality of giving my message to just random people, if I went into my local town centre and stood in my town centre and started talking about being above average and so on, I might get one person to go, "Hey, aren't you Mark Lewis off YouTube?"
Yeah.
And I get an awful lot of people tell me to get lost. So so my every sympathy. If you are a GP thinking, well, this guy's got a clue. No, I don't. I live in this little bubble where I have a good message people hear it and say thanks for it. It's as simple as that. I have hundreds of thousands of people hear that message. So I'm just very, very privileged to be able to have a message that I'm into heard by huge numbers of people that respond to me by saying we loved it. Doctors, GPs, are almost the reverse of that. They got a great message, but they got a very small community of people they're trying to give it to, none of whom, or at least very few of whom, are really massively willing to hear it. Because I guess the guy that goes into hospital to get his heart kick started again because he smoked all his life isn't queuing up for advice on the fact that he probably shouldn't be smoking. I mean, he either knows it or well, he knows it anyway.
Yeah.
He's not there to hear that. Whereas everyone here to hear me is here for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, doctors, you have swung me slightly from the GPs are useless to I understand completely where they're coming from. It's a pity that there isn't an astronomical amount of money pumped into the system that allows them to, or at least allows the ones like you might have been that are into their health and fitness to say, this is what I'm going to specialize in. And how amazing to have a GP that was the health and fitness guy.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to phone up my GP and say, I'm doing a 200-mile bike ride in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm a bit worried about the impact of X, Y, Z on my joints. And to be able to come and talk to you about that, it's a medical issue. I wouldn't dream of wasting NHS time with that at the moment. They'd say, well, don't do a 200-mile bike ride. That would be a dangerous thing to do. In fact, I did a 10,000 calorie challenge recently. Eat 10,000, burn 10,000 calories. Do you know what? I did it on the day that there was the nurses' strike, or there was a strike of some sort. No?
Yeah, it might have been the junior doctor strike.
And the advice was, don't do anything risky today because the hospitals might not be able to deal with you.
No, I know.
And at midnight, I was having crazy cramps and spasms because my body got into shock. It crossed my mind, if I end up in hospital just getting fixed, whatever's wrong with me, what a dick I'm going to look like. That I burdened the system by exercising. I mean, it was what I should have done that day to feel better about myself was just sat on the sofa and had some Pringles.
Yeah.
And everything would have been all right. I mean,
No, I know it's challenging. I think, you know, I'm glad I've sort of swung you slightly. I think most people are like me in the profession. They want to help people, and I think coming back to the idea of this being your sphere of influence, and you know you can have a massive impact, but actually you recognise what you can't change. I think that's what I'm going through currently. You know, there is a lot going on in the world, and I was working in a very chaotic environment, dealing with things that are, you know, ultimately outside of many people who work in the NHS's control, whether that's the patients that present to you or whether that's the influence of, you know, big lobbies or the, you know, how the company runs. It's a company, and ultimately the government decide how much or how little they give to the NHS and where it's going. So, you know, I found that difficult to work within, and I'm just trying to sort of figure out where my sphere of influence is going to be. And I'm positive because I find this interesting. I want to spread a good message about health and fitness. You know, the evidence is out there that it's really is a positive message, so I can be confident in the science. And I think it would be a good thing to have a GP, you know, I may go back to it, but have a doctor that's interested in health and fitness, knows what they're talking about from a personal training point of view. And with platforms like this and technology like this, maybe actually the impact can be greater than seeing one person at a time. Who knows? It's hard to know. But, you know, I get maybe that's a positive outlook for the end of the podcast. I don't know.
It is. It's a positive. Do you know what it is? And it's like a lot of this stuff. It's it does strike me as though, and it's just an unfortunate reality, that if you are somebody lucky enough to find themselves in your sphere of influence at some point in the future, or indeed watching my channel or whatever it might be, then you're okay. Because actually, what we have more today than ever before is great information and positive spheres of influence. So if you are somebody who makes the leap, if you're going back to the luck again, if you are lucky enough to wake up one day and think, today is the day I'm going to sort it out. I'm fed up with being too heavy, not exercising, smoking, drinking, whatever. Today is the day. If you're lucky enough to be that person, in 2023, you can get yourself in front of my videos, crikey, 1,000 people's videos. In fact, actually, don't start with mine. Mine are just for fun. Watch someone that knows what they're talking about. You can get information that you could never have got in the past. So actually, the person that decides, I'm going to get myself sorted, is better off today than ever before. We talk about foods. There are more health foods available than ever before. The trouble is there are millions of bad choices as well, but still, if I want to eat health, I do eat healthy. So do you. You eat whole foods.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, someone that grew up in the 80s, if I went into a shop in the 80s and said, got any whole foods, they wouldn't know what I was talking about. So you can do things today that you could never have done in the past in terms of improving your health and fitness. So for those people, they're sorted. And then there's everyone else kind of outside the wall, as it were, and it does appear as though the gap between kind of them and us, or healthy and not healthy, as it is with rich and poor, is just going to get
I think that's probably true.
worse and worse. And in fact, the COVID era has emphasised that, because there are people like me that have come out of it healthier, and I talk to people all the time that found, while sat at home, working from home, they found fitness, they found an interest in eating better, or whatever it might be. So there are people that have excelled because of it, and there are people that have just drunk more, eaten more, exercised less. And unfortunately, the numbers are skewed in favour of the people that have gone downhill, not uphill.
Yeah.
But the disparity between the two is growing. So I think that what you want to do and what you would like to be able to do, there's clearly a massive market for it and incredibly valuable. But how you do it, a bit like I do, to anything other than a kind of predetermined audience that actually want to hear it already, is the trick. As a YouTuber, I don't need to care. If someone doesn't want to hear my stuff, it's not my job. That doesn't matter. But as a health professional trying to assist society,
it's a huge challenge, and I don't know how we sort it out.
Those people. I don't know how we fix that. Yeah,
but I think I'm trying to take a step back, try and influence the people around me that want to hear, and because it's a huge responsibility, and I think I think that's how doctors feel. Doctors care, nurses care, and we're having to strike to try and protect our patients.
Absolutely.
It's not fun.
And also, the idea of getting into kind of social media and podcasting and YouTube and so on. The one cool thing I think about that, having said many times on this podcast that I'm not an expert, nor are most YouTubers, I can assure you, even the ones that think they are. So actually, what social media is crying out for is people that are qualified and competent and have a degree of credibility behind them. And there is a place for people just doing it for laughs, as I do.
Yeah.
And it has value, because if somebody watches my daft stuff and then decides to go and play a game of tennis rather than sit on the sofa, good, I've done good. But it doesn't really scratch the surface of what somebody who had a genuine knowledge could do. And we see it. There are YouTubers out there clearly that have that ability, that do that already. But it's not the bulk of YouTube. The bulk of YouTube is not people that are skilled and competent and knowledgeable about a particular subject and then talking about it. That isn't what YouTube is. So if it could become that in a way through people like yourself getting into it, that's a very good thing. In fact, I was talking the other day about something about how every kid wants to be a YouTuber and they don't want to be a doctor. Actually, what we need is kids that want to be a doctor, but then conclude being a YouTuber is pretty cool as well and switch. That's what we need. Yeah, it doesn't work the other way. No YouTuber thinks,
no.
To heck with this. I'm going to learn how to do stitches.
But I mean, on that, I don't stay fit because I want to, obviously it's a great benefit. I know that I'm doing something positive for my health. I stay fit because it makes me feel good. you know, and
Yes.
I think,
Yeah.
you know, we need to try and promote that message.
Cool. Dan, it is Dr. Dan. Dr. Dan. It has been fascinating. And also, you feel like a man that has more to him than just doctor chat. So it'd be interesting at some point to have another chat about things that we kind of veered off into and then
Absolutely.
and then
I'd
reeled
love that.
ourselves back in from. But we could have you could do 4 hours with free will with me. That just that whole idea of what you're in control of and what you're not, as somebody that has been very privileged in life and is now currently doing a job that is incredibly nice, simple as that. I am well aware that that not everything that happens to you is simply down to you, good or bad. A lot of it is just way outside your control. So so interesting conversations. Superb. I'm also going to stick links as to where people can find your stuff. So we're gonna see if we can blow up your stuff a little bit and make you rich and famous.
Mark, I'm thinking about doing High Rocks in November.
Are you? Oh, well, actually, in November. I haven't mentioned this before, but I will. I'm doing November. It'll be the first High Rocks I've done in the over 50 category.
Oh, of course.
I will be over 50 for the first time. I've turned 50 5 days before the event. My plan is to break and therefore hold the over 50s world record for High Rocks.
Very good.
Which requires an astronomical increase in performance between now and then. So the likelihood of it happening is slim to more slim. But that's my plan. You've not done one before?
Never done one before. Barely know what it's. I run. I lift weights. I figured I'm.
You absolutely. What's your 5K time?
Just under sort of 20 minutes. Yeah,
absolutely. So you are immediately. You're a competent high roxer, and also I should add for anyone listening that thinks, "Oh, my 5K run is whatever 4 days." You also would enjoy high rocks, but you'd be at a different end of the scale. Anybody that can run 5K at any speed, get to a high rocks. But if you're doing 20-minute 5Ks, you're not quite as fast as me. But,
I know. I'm aware. Very aware. But I'm not as heavy as you either.
No, indeed. No. I'm
not as old as you either, Mark.
I know, yeah. What's wrong with you loser? Although you are a doctor, so you're probably slightly more intelligent.
Should have been on the track.
Yes, but then you'd have wasted all that Doogie Howser mentality.
Yeah. God, bloody Doogie Howser.
So yeah, you do need to get the high rocks. So that's cool. Awesome. Super. Again, thanks for your time. And I look forward to chatting again.
Mark, thanks. It's been a pleasure.